Hi, I'm Julia Stege, the magical marketer, and I am here with Marilyn Edwards, who is a co-author in the anthology I've put together called The Moment I Said Yes, Stories of Soul-Led Trailblazers Turning Purpose into a Way of Life. And Marilyn's chapter is called The Reluctant Mystic. So, Marilyn, thanks for talking with me today.
Good to be here.
So, what inspired you to join this anthology the moment I said yes?
Well, I think my main purpose was to try to inspire other people who maybe like me, are a little reluctant to bring their gifts out to the world and to share them and have the courage to do it and feel comfortable doing so because they're so needed right now. I would really like to see more of that happen. And I know the difficulties I've had doing that. So I thought maybe I could help with that. That's really the main reason.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
you feel so did you predict that it was going to be the way it was to write this out?
No, I did not. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be,
I think
actually.
that's what a lot of the authors are saying,
Yeah.
that it was they imagined it was going to be, an easier flow. They knew what they were going to write
Yeah.
about, but then other things started coming up in the process of writing. Was that
Yeah.
your experience as well?
Yes, and it was kind of like there's so many things along the way that have happened. You kind of try to decide in a short framework what's the most important things that you want to write about. And also to really to feel like you're reaching the depth you're trying to express. That was hard. So I would write and then I would rewrite because I really wanted the feeling of what I was saying to come across. I didn't want to just be, telling a story that was superficial because it was a story that required a lot of deep change and courage, and also had a lot of very interesting things happen. So I wanted that to come across, and it wasn't hard to drill. I mean, it wasn't easy to drill it down into a nutshell. I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
So,
did it seem like as you were writing it that you would get to a certain level and then you would notice that there was something deeper that had to be revealed, and then
yes,
that would happen again, and then there was something deeper that had to
yeah,
be revealed?
yeah. I rewrote it at least twice.
Oh yeah.
Completely rewrote it at least twice. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Was it
So.
always called The Reluctant Mystic?
No, that came in the end. I didn't really have a I didn't really have a name for it. I was just writing. And then
Hmm.
as I wrote, I realized, yeah, you were pretty reluctant to step onto this path. It
Yeah,
really wasn't what I thought my life was going to look like at all.
right. Well, you
Never
share that you
in a
were
million years.
an artist, and
Yeah.
then suddenly a shrimp boat captain. So those are like
Yeah. Yeah, pretty
already,
different.
and that's not what you're doing now, right?
No, no. Not for a long time.
It's interesting. How could being an artist and then being a shrimp boat captain lead to being a mystic? I mean, I know that's what your chapter's about, and I don't want you to give it
Yeah.
away, but that's an
Well,
interesting question, right?
I think the artist was the part of me that always wanted to create harmony and beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have a spiritual bent even when I was young, and growing up and in high school and college and stuff. But it was just sort of over on the side. It was an interest, and I incorporated it in my own internal life, but it wasn't anything I thought was going to be something that I did to help others or anything like that. And the artist was just the part of me that just loves to create beauty and to create a harmonic. And I can do that a lot of ways. You can do it with energy, you can do it with sound, you can do it with painting. You know that. And so I feel like that. And then the um the shrimp boat captain stuff really started just to go conquer a fear of the ocean.
Mm,
I had a fear and I wanted to conquer it. And I liked the hard work of it. It was like a meditation. And it also took me away from a lot of things at the time, like so much distraction, because when you're out on the water, it can be hard work, and being on the water can be meditative. It can also be really scary. But I think building my physical strength and all of that really helped me anchor
hmm.
myself into a place where I felt more, I don't know quite what the word would be, but I felt it helped me feel strong in a way I hadn't before.
So, when was that? How long ago was that?
I probably did that from, don't quote me, I'm not sure I'm accurate, but probably from like 26 to 37, something like it
Hmm.
was 11 years.
So, yeah, we're talking in the 1980s, 90s.
Yeah.
So, there weren't a lot of women shrimp boat captains back then. There probably aren't very many today, right?
Yeah. As far
And
as my knowledge, there were none at the time I
there were
started.
none. Now, I personally, I was always very conscious of doing things that my mother or her generation or her mother weren't allowed to do. And part
Yeah.
of that was my mother talking to me about that stuff.
Yeah.
But did you have that consciousness of like doing something that other women just haven't been doing, like as a, I want to
I'm
say
not sure I
trailblazer.
thought of it like that. Like my father always taught me I could do anything that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very mechanical, so he taught me to be very mechanical and things like that. And my mother, she also encouraged me to do things, so she was a little more like, what will the neighbors think? Um,
Uh,
Neither one of them were happy with these choices of artist or boat captain because their thought was I was supposed to go to school to be a scientist and a
a
doc or a
scientist.
doctor. Yeah.
Hmm.
So neither one of them enjoyed that very much at all. But they instilled that kind of freedom of trying things out in me. They
Hmm.
themselves were like that when they were younger, for
Hmm.
their times. My father took off and joined the Air Force and went all over the world before he got married. So, you know, he had it in him too. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, but I wasn't trying to break any barriers other
Breaking
than my
barriers.
own fear of the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you stepped up to write this chapter, did you have fear of writing?
I don't think I had fear, but I didn't think I'd be very good at it. I thought it was going to be difficult for me to write it.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid to write it. It just didn't. When I write things, they always end up sounding like a scientific research paper, so
I don't think that this one sounds like that. I
no,
think it sounds like a
but I
good
learned as
story.
I did it. Yeah.
It sounds like a
Well,
good story.
yeah. I
Yeah.
was actually surprised. I
Do
was
you think it
surprised
came
that
out differently because it's part of a collective rather than you writing on your own?
I think being part of the collective is really useful. It gave me a sense of purpose that I might not have had just by myself. You
Yeah.
know,
How so?
like, well, joining together with other women to help, I don't know, how can I say it, bring a little more light into the world,
Yeah.
really means something to me.
Yeah.
So,
And they were sharing, like I remember the first day, and people were sharing about their just their starter idea, really.
yeah.
And I found that really moving myself. I found myself really inspired and surprised at the
Yeah.
level of where they're at as people and what they were saying yes to. I found it really, really inspiring and surprising. There were many things that I found surprising. The fact of the writing of the book transforming lives. So, like the writing of the chapter causing transformation, not just having a finished chapter that somebody reads and they have a transformation, but the
Right.
transformation of the authors. Um, I found that to be really surprising, and just
Yeah.
how brilliant everyone is, too. Do you feel like that called you into a higher level of yourself?
Yeah, I do. It's like things I think about, um, but maybe don't often get to express because, like you said, it was just such an incredible group of women. And to hear their stories and, their journeys and the depth of their care and feeling really did me a lot of good because, sometimes you feel like you're in this by yourself, depending on what's going on. You're feeling like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it really inspired me that other people had made this journey, in their own way, but they had made this journey too, and that it mattered to them. It helps you feel a little more supported and a
yeah.
little more supportive of others.
And not
And
so
I like
far out
that.
there. I mean, there's some out there stuff that you're writing about in your chapter that you've experienced. I mean, you're a mystic, so of course we expect a little bit out there, right? Um, but like to not be the only one, you know, expressing something that's so uncommonly expressed, about being different, really. I mean, a mystic. How do you feel, what do you think is the important importance of being a mystic in today's world?
Mm. That's kind of hard.
You just
First of all, I was
became
going to
one, you
say to you,
feel like it
safety
happened
in
naturally?
numbers. You know, that was one thing like came to me while you were talking about us all coming together. It's like safety in numbers. I think of
Yeah,
other times when that might not have been true. I think the world needs a little more magic,
yeah.
for lack of a better way of putting it. We're so intellectual and we're so left brain and we're so into technology. And I think we've lost the wonder
Mm-hmm.
and the magic of living. And I love that the science is proving a lot of the spiritual things and the quote magical things or whatever you want to call it now. I
Yeah.
love that because I have a really scientific mind as well. But I'd rather spend the time in the magic. The other stuff really eventually makes me tired.
Yeah, it makes me tired thinking about it, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that my family members are more science-based,
Yeah.
science-oriented. Um, like they like proving things.
Yeah.
And I was always swimming in the world of the unprovable.
Yeah.
And I like
Possibility.
that. Yeah, possibility, but also, art is a thing that like you don't really know how it's going to turn out. I mean, there's some people, maybe Chuck Close, the realist, knows exactly he's trying to make it look exactly like that Polaroid 6 foot by 6 foot or whatever. But like for the most part, we don't know what that creative project is going to come out as, because that's the point. It's the
Yeah.
creative process to have something unexpected arrive. And I think that that's also what draws me also to that mystic world and the mystical. Um, I mean, first of all, there's no real logic to life. There's no real like, oh yeah, of course we're here, you know, and that of course would happen. It's just
Yeah.
it's a total miracle. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a billion miracles in one because it couldn't possibly happen. I mean, one tiny little thing off and we are, our planet is like not ha
Post.
inhabitable, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that we're here is what are we going to do with it, But like I always found that everyone's a mystic. They just don't know it. Do you feel that way?
I'm not sure if I feel completely like that. I think that people have a mystical side, but I also think that some people are more naturally mystic than others. Some
That's sort of
people are
like,
really set in stone, especially a few
right,
scientists that I know.
right,
Yeah.
right. Some people are, yeah,
Yeah.
not
But
all
it doesn't mean we
scientists.
don't have that. And I think the other thing is, we all are sort of different pieces of the puzzle, right? We need structure in a physical reality to create one and to live in it. We
Hmm.
do need some structure. We need, different parts of the puzzle. Um,
The bridge needs
and
to stay standing.
right, so I mean, like it's like one of the things I say is like it doesn't really matter what you do. It's just like as you become more conscious and you're able to open up to more love, um, and I call it the love that has no opposite. It doesn't matter what you're doing so much as where you're doing it from. So, if you can build a bridge with loving thoughts and the thought of serving the people that are going to be driving over it or
Yeah.
in harmony with the earth or, things like that, that's different than just slapping up a bridge
Well, yeah.
or
Yeah.
anything else you're doing, and people, I think people are just, science anyway, it's just starting to touch on that, but they are starting
Yeah.
to touch on that.
Yeah, they are. I do like
So
that too.
it's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, I like I used to study rainforest herbs and
So they were great herbs.
and in the forest they name them things. They name them based on what they look like often. And I just
Yeah.
remember one, for instance, Chanca piedra, the stone breaker, and it's just this little leaves off
These-
of like a stem with little leaves off of it,
Yeah.
and then these little pea-shaped seeds underneath it or something. They're like little stones. And if
Yeah.
you eat them, it breaks up kidney stones. And
Right.
they finally, 2,000 years later, just found out that it does that.
Yeah.
They did some.
And people poo-poo that kind of knowing. Like I
Well,
can
they
remember as a
when
child.
there's a million billion possible things that chemical reactions that any particular plant could have. How do you know which
Well, we
one it
don't.
is, and they say, well, the plant told me. And so that's it's
Exactly.
like direct. That's just it. The plant told me.
Because I can remember as a kid wondering, well, how did everybody know what different plants would do? I remember thinking that.
Yeah.
And then later on, when, I started working in a nursery, just learning how to propagate plants, like for something to do besides what I do. And I walked into the greenhouse one day to put down a tray of plants, and I heard this voice, and it's telling me, "Hey, we don't like how they're how they're breaking us up and planting us in these pots." And it was the plants across the way that I had nothing to do with. And so I told the guy who owned the nursery, and it was these. some kind of grasses. And he said, I'm not surprised. He said, those guys come to work on Monday and they're all drunk still from the weekend and they're hacking away at them with hatchets. And he said, that doesn't surprise me at all. And I said, well, they really don't like it, and so he had them do something different. And you're talking to, okay, so remember you're talking to the boat captain who knows zero, zilch about plants at the
Oh.
time. And they started talking to me and telling me all this stuff, like what they needed and all this kind of thing. And he would take me out, the owner would take me out into the field if something was having a problem. And he'd go, okay, what's wrong with that plant? And I said, well, they're telling me that their soil is too alkaline. And he said, well, that's impossible. They're not an acid loving plant. I said, I don't know anything. I'm just telling you what they're telling me. And then he would go, well, do they need a fungicide? And they would go, no, like that. That's how I heard it. And then come to find out later, he didn't tell me, his aunt told me. He asked the fertilizer man when he came to check the soil, and it was too alkaline from too much. We had to water. It was a super hot summer, and he had like a 400-foot artesian well. And in Florida, there's so much lime and stuff in the water.
Oh,
It became too alkaline, and he changed out all the soil, and then they were fine. So I kept getting, validation of what they were telling me, but I didn't know anything. I just listened.
it didn't sound like you were very reluctant as a mystic back then.
Well, not for that, because I was sticking up for the plants,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, but it was pretty cool to see. And he was open to hearing, he didn't think I was crazy. He really loved plants, so he was open.
I love that. I love that story.
Yeah,
That's not in
it
the
was fun.
chapter. They just got that as a bonus.
Yeah, no, I didn't put that in there.
Listen to the
There's all kinds of things like that that aren't in that chapter.
yeah.
So,
So, for the readers who dive into your chapter and want to take these concepts further, do you have a little special resource or gift available for them on their journey?
well, right now I have a little short journal that I created called Imagine If. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really about changing your mindset because one of the things I saw is like when we try to will things to happen,
Mm-hmm.
that we often will bring up everything in us that fears it. And so if you play with it more like you're playing at creating and you don't have all that stress on it, it it's much easier to create. In fact, I actually did an imagine if thing with the house I'm sitting in right now. I used to just play, oh, if I had a house that fit all my different personalities, it would have this and it would have this. And they
Right.
would show me one scene where there was like a sliding glass doors, a deck, and a privacy fence, which was not something I was personally envisioning because back then I liked French doors, but there it was. And so I had an opportunity to come out here when I sold my house. I had to sell my house after taking care of my mom when she was dying of cancer. And I came out here to rent this house from my friends, and it was pitch black, pouring rain. And I walked through the door, and my chest, something just lifted off my chest. And we
Uh-huh.
went all around the house. And when we got to this room, and I saw the sliding glass doors, the deck, and the privacy fence, I went,
Mm.
"Oh my God, this is the room,
This is
right?"
it.
And then so I moved in here, for a song, really. They let me move in here for a song. And I lived here for a number of years. I had a wonderful time here. It was like such an incredible place on 5 acres. And
Wow.
then I later my childhood sweetheart came back into my life and we redid a house downtown. And so I still kept this, but he ended up actually because I was renting from my friends. I had first like rights of refusal to buy it,
Uh-huh.
but then he actually ended up buying it and giving it to me.
Oh,
And
I
I had
love
been
that.
told 6 years before that I was going to be in this place by this elderly woman in Ohio who was a psychic lady. And she described this place to a T. And she said, and it's going to be a gift. But I always thought the gift was just being able to live here. And then it actually became an actual physical gift as
Oh, wow.
well.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So the Imagine If little journal you've got, it takes you through a fun imagining process so that you can let go of your stress around needing things to turn out the way you want them to and have a
Yeah.
more creative self-expression that results in a clear vision of what you want.
Yeah, it just helps you sort of refocus and think about things differently. Like there's morning prompts and evening prompts. The evening prompts are more about kind of letting go of stress or kind of reviewing your day and allowing it to let go and sort of grounding into your body so
Mm-hmm.
that you're actually carrying whatever ideas you want to carry them down into your physical life. You don't want them just to be dreams out there wandering around in the ethers. So it's a little bit of all of that, and it's
Okay.
also um, a few coloring exercises. You
Oh,
can draw,
coloring. Okay,
or you
good.
can color in some things I've put in it if you're not feeling confident enough to draw your own. Because sometimes you just don't feel like that, you know?
Yeah,
So it's,
sometimes it's just relaxing to just get out some colors and just fill in the
yeah.
little areas.
That's
Yeah.
something I had to do for when I was going through some bad times. Like I was an art major in college, but I got to where I was terrified to walk into an art store. And so I started
Yeah.
buying these big coloring books. They were kind of adult coloring books, I guess, because they had gray lines and they were pretty
Oh,
complex.
huh? I
Yeah,
bet.
but I would
Yeah.
get them and paint them with watercolor or whatever and help me
Mhm.
get going again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Coloring is good.
yeah.
All
It's
right.
kind
Well,
of fun. Brings the kid out.
thanks for offering that to the people. Any last words that you would like to say about your chapter or about the anthology?
Well, I hope that the anthology on the whole, like I said, inspires people to find their courage and move out into the world with their gifts.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of good energy for that right now. It's hard in one way. You know, we're in some intense times, but there's also a lot of energy supporting that. So I hope
Yeah.
that my hope is that it'll really inspire people to do that. And then for myself, I guess I want people to know that you can get through the hardest times and come out the other side. Like sometimes you're looking at something that feels really difficult and it looks like a mountain, like
Yeah.
Mount Everest. And you go, oh God, how am I ever going to get to that? But once you've let go of whatever's holding it in place, it's like you pass through and you turn around and you look at it and it's like the size of a pea.
Yeah.
And you wonder whatever took you so long. But it kind of takes as long as it takes, but you there is a point at which you reach critical mass, let's say, where you can
Yes. Yeah.
and I also always tell people being conscious doesn't mean nothing happens in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It means you handle it differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they're always throwing stuff at us that we haven't yet predicted,
Yeah.
even if you are a mystic.
But I used to say, like, I eat this stuff for lunch. That's what I used to say.
And then they bring you like,
And then it got a little, it turned into concrete, and that was a little
yeah, then they
hard. But
bring you something hard.
yeah, no,
Okay,
I
well,
used
you
to
want
look
it
at it and go,
harder,
I
Marilyn? Here's something a
no.
little harder to deal with.
Now I ask for ease.
Ease, yeah. Let's have a
Yeah,
little ease with it. Good.
yeah.
Good. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with us today.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.